A daughter's devastating revelation. The hospital becomes ground zero for a life-altering confession when Rachel Black finds herself face-to-face with her father Brady at a critical moment. The weight of a secret she has carried for months is about to come crashing down in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. Brady, portrayed by the talented Eric Martsolf, leans in close to his daughter as concern etches deep lines across his face. The question he poses, "What do you mean, Rachel?" hangs in the air like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. What Rachel reveals next will forever change the trajectory of multiple lives in Salem. With trembling voice and tears streaming down her young face, Rachel finally speaks the words that have been locked away in the darkest corners of her mind. "Mommy didn't shoot Uncle EJ," she confesses to her father, her voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying the weight of a devastating truth. This single sentence unravels months of lies, false confessions, and a mother's desperate attempt to protect her child from the consequences of an unthinkable act. The revelation strikes Brady like a physical blow as he begins to piece together the horrifying reality that his daughter has been living with this burden all along. The night everything changed. The shooting incident that nearly claimed E.J. Dimra's life last spring has been one of Salem's most perplexing mysteries. For months, residents speculated about who could have pulled the trigger on the powerful attorney and DiMera patriarch. Initial suspicions pointed toward EJ's own son Johnny, creating a heartbreaking family drama that threatened to tear the DiMeras apart from within. However, through hypnosis sessions conducted by the brilliant Dr. Marlene Evans, EJ was able to recall that a woman had been responsible for shooting him, which shifted the investigation in an entirely different direction. The truth, as it turned out, was far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Rachel, EJ's 10-year-old niece and Kristen's beloved daughter, had been the one to pull the trigger that fateful night. In a chilling flashback sequence that was finally revealed to viewers, the events of that evening played out in devastating detail. Young Rachel had confronted her uncle EJ, demanding to know the whereabouts of her missing grandmother Rachel. Despite EJ's insistence that he had no knowledge of Rachel's location, the frightened and desperate child made the unthinkable decision to fire the weapon, leaving her uncle bleeding on the living room floor. A mother's ultimate sacrifice. What makes this tragedy even more heartbreaking is Kristen Dimra's response to discovering the truth about what her daughter had done. Rather than allowing Rachel to face the consequences of her actions, Kristen made the ultimate maternal sacrifice by falsely confessing to the shooting herself. This devoted mother was willing to face imprisonment, disgrace, and the complete destruction of her own life to shield her young daughter from the trauma and legal repercussions of such a violent act. Kristen's false confession allowed Rachel to attempt to bury the memory deep in her subconscious, but as any experienced psychologist would predict, repressed trauma has a way of resurfacing at the most unexpected moments. The triggering incident. Recent events in Salem served as the catalyst that brought Rachel's suppressed memories flooding back to the surface. In a twisted turn of events, Rachel had been engaging in her own schemes, driven by jealousy over the growing closeness between her father Brady and Sarah Horton Kyriakis. After discovering information about Sarah's severe pistachio allergy and learning about a past incident where Sarah had kidnapped Rachel as a baby during a tragic baby swap situation, the young girl hatched a dangerous plan. During what was supposed to be a pleasant outing for dessert at the Brady pub, Rachel deliberately ensured that pistachios ended up in Sarah's food, triggering a life-threatening allergic reaction. Watching Sarah struggle to breathe and seeing the panic unfold before her eyes created a psychological trigger that Rachel's mind could no longer suppress. The violence she had inflicted on EJ came rushing back with devastating clarity, and the guilt that had been festering beneath the surface for months finally erupted. The trauma of remembering what she had done to her uncle, combined with the realization of what she had just done to Sarah, sent Rachel spiraling into a severe emotional and mental health crisis that required immediate medical intervention. Prayers at a hospital bedside. Now, as Thanksgiving approaches and Salem prepares for its traditional celebrations, Brady and his son Tate find themselves in the sterile environment of a hospital room instead of gathering around a festive table. The two stand vigil over Rachel's hospital bed, where the young girl lies in the aftermath of her emotional breakdown. The scene is one of profound sadness and desperation as father and brother can do nothing but watch and pray for Rachel's recovery from this devastating mental and emotional crisis. Tate, portrayed by Leo Howard, stands beside his father, his own face reflecting the shock and concern of discovering the terrible secret his younger half-sister has been carrying. The gravity of the situation weighs heavily on everyone involved, as medical professionals work to stabilize Rachel both physically and psychologically. There is growing concern among family members that Rachel's mental state has deteriorated to such a degree that she may require specialized treatment at the Baby Bayview facility, where other young patients dealing with severe psychological trauma have been sent for intensive care. Brady faces the agonizing possibility of having to commit his own daughter to a psychiatric facility, a decision that no parent should ever have to make. Thanksgiving in the shadow of tragedy. While Brady, Tate, and Rachel deal with their family crisis in the hospital, the rest of Salem attempts to maintain their Thanksgiving traditions despite the undercurrent of drama that seems to permeate every corner of the town. The Brady family gathers at their iconic pub for their annual celebration, counting their blessings and sharing toasts filled with gratitude, laughter, and love. Belle surprises her mother Marlene with an unexpected visit, bringing joy during what has been a difficult time for the Evans family. Meanwhile, Alex finds himself worried about Stephanie's safety, adding another layer of concern to the holiday festivities. The Horton family prepares for their own Thanksgiving gathering, though they notice the absence of a significant family member whose presence casts a shadow over their celebration. Speculation suggests that Chad might be steering clear of Jennifer during their ongoing custody battle, creating a painful void at what should be a time of family unity. Philip joins the Hernandez family for dinner, forging new connections and finding his place within Salem's extended family network. Even Leo finds a moment of romance, expressing his love for Javi with a special dessert that showcases the softer side of his often outrageous personality. Dark reunions and captive celebrations. Perhaps most intriguingly, the Thanksgiving holiday takes on a particularly bizarre twist in the DiMera family crypt, where an unexpected and shocking reunion unfolds. Kristen and Tony DiMera, both being held captive in the family's underground burial chamber, find themselves forced to celebrate Thanksgiving in the most macabre setting imaginable. This surreal situation adds yet another layer to the complex web of drama surrounding the shooting revelation and its aftermath, as Kristen remains separated from her daughter during Rachel's greatest time of need. The weight of truth and consequences. As Rachel's confession reverberates through Salem, the implications for everyone involved become increasingly complex. EJ must now grapple with the knowledge that his own young niece was responsible for his near-death experience, while also considering whether to pursue justice against a child who was clearly traumatized and acting out of desperation. Kristen's false confession and imprisonment now take on new meaning, as authorities must decide how to handle a mother who perjured herself to protect her daughter. Brady finds himself caught between his love for his daughter and the need to ensure she receives proper treatment for the psychological damage caused by her actions and the months of suppressing this terrible secret. The week of November 24th to 28th promises to deliver some of the most emotionally charged and dramatically intense episodes in recent days of our lives' history. As families gather to give thanks, Rachel's crisis serves as a stark reminder that beneath Salem's picture-perfect holiday celebrations, deep wounds and dark secrets continue to shape the lives of its residents in profound and often devastating ways. Part 2. Days of Our Lives, Friday, November 21, 2025. A day of history, healing, and a very dangerous mistake. Friday's episode of Days of Our Lives delivered something that longtime viewers appreciate most: careful storytelling, generational echoes, and the reminder that even in a town accustomed to wild secrets, the deepest wounds often come from family. The hour began quietly, almost tenderly, before erupting into a frightening medical crisis that left viewers and the character shaken. A prescription no one expected. After finishing her shift at University Hospital, Kayla Brady did what many mothers and grandmothers have done for decades. She turned to the comfort of something sweet. She had noticed that Sarah Horton, still bruised emotionally from her recent divorce, was lingering at the bar of the Brady pub looking tired, distracted, and a little lost. With her usual blend of compassion and common-sense wisdom, Kayla suggested a simple remedy for heartbreak: is cream. Sometimes the best medicine isn't in a bottle, she told Sarah warmly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. A little sweetness can remind you that happier days are still ahead. It was the sort of old-fashioned comfort that Kayla learned from her own family, the kind of steady advice Salem has depended on for generations. As Kayla headed out, she passed Brady Black and his daughter Rachel coming in. Brady looked worn down, the kind of exhausted only a parent of a troubled child truly understands. Rachel trudged behind him, dragging her feet, but when she spotted Sarah sitting at the bar, her entire expression brightened for just a moment. Brady did not notice, but viewers did. Behind his back, the girl's smile disappeared just as quickly as it came. Uneasy ice cream at the Brady pub. Sarah invited them to sit with her, wanting to help ease whatever tension was simmering between father and daughter. Roman, always happy to see old family friends, prepared 3 ice cream sundaes. But while the adults chatted about school, the upcoming holidays, and the challenges of co-parenting, Rachel quietly slipped away toward the bar. With a practiced innocence, she asked Roman if he could switch her vanilla for pistachio. She claimed she preferred the nutty flavor. But viewers knew better, and so did Rachel. She was well aware that pistachio was Sarah's allergy, not hers. Roman, assuming nothing was amiss, prepared the bowl. But before he could bring the sundaes back to the table, Rachel returned and did something truly dangerous. She took a spoonful of her pistachio ice cream and dropped it into Sarah's bowl. 1 scoop, small but potentially lethal. The sight of 3 sundaes, 1 spoon resting on top, became one of the quietest yet most chilling images of the episode. From secrets to heartbreak. Back at the table, the conversation took a startling turn. Rachel, without warning, revealed that she had known for some time that she had been switched at birth, one of the most painful and complicated chapters in her family's history. Brady was stunned. The truth had been guarded for years, revealed only when absolutely necessary. But in Salem, secrets rarely stay buried. Sarah, who had been more than a doctor to Rachel, almost a soft, stable presence, the child rarely had, confirmed the story gently. She tried to reassure the girl, explaining that although the circumstances were painful, it didn't change her place in the world or her worth. Over the last several months, Sarah had grown closer to Rachel through treatment sessions, emergency visits, and emotional breakdowns. She meant every word when she said the girl had become one of the brightest lights in her life. Brady apologized again and again. "I'm so sorry you had to carry this alone," he said, "but you have more people who love you than you know." For a moment, it looked as if a fragile peace might settle over the table. A sudden crit too late. As Sarah lifted a spoonful of her sundae, Rachel's expression twisted into panic. All at once, she screamed, "Don't eat that!" But the warning came a second too late. Sarah swallowed the spoonful, paused, and then grabbed the edge of the table. Her voice tightened. Her breath shortened. Her face turned pale. Brady jumped to his feet so fast his chair crashed to the floor. "Sarah! Sarah!" His voice was choked with fear as he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Rachel, what did you do?" Roman, calm even in chaos, grabbed the phone and called 911, shouting for an ambulance. Brady frantically tore through Sarah's purse, looking for her EpiPen. Come on, where is it?" he muttered, hands shaking. Rachel stood frozen, staring at her hands as if she had never seen them before. Her earlier defiance melted away, replaced with pure horror. She had wanted revenge, or maybe a way to shock Sarah, or perhaps just the power to make someone else feel as lost as she felt. But she had not intended to cause this, at least. That's what her trembling expression suggested. And then another memory hit her with crushing force, the moment she had shot E.J. DeMera. The same panic, the same disbelief, the same sickening realization that she could not undo what she had done. A child's guilt and a town's fear. As Sarah struggled for air, the room spun around Rachel. All she could do was watch while paramedics hurried through the door. Brady held Sarah against him, his voice shaking as he whispered that help was coming. The fear in his eyes was unmistakable for Sarah. Fear for his daughter. Fear of what this latest incident meant for their future. Roman guided Rachel gently away from the table, but she could barely move. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, and the noise of the pub faded into a distant hum. This was no longer a mischievous child acting out. This was a crisis. One with consequences. One that would ripple through families across Salem for weeks if not months.